What is up, you guys? It's Chris here. So in today's video, I'm going to share with you a story of how 5 simple tricks and hacks helped me build my credit score to over 800 in about 30 days. And the greatest part is I'm going to show you exactly how I did it, and most importantly, how you can do it as well. What is up? My name is Chris. Welcome to another video. If this is your first time here and you want to make money, not just a little bit of money, but a lot of money, be sure to hit that subscribe button, tick the bell icon next to it so you don't miss anything. Now, contrary to popular belief, your credit score should be really important to you. And not just because you can get a good interest rate on a loan. Your credit score can really affect so many different aspects of your life. For example, it can determine how much money you have to put down for different utilities such as your gas, water, or electric. It can affect your car insurance premiums. It can affect whether or not you get a job or not. It can even affect you smashing that like button if you haven't already. So as you can see, this is a very serious matter. Number 1, you need to get your credit utilization under 20%. Now, in terms of what creates your credit score, your credit utilization determines about 30% of that overall number. So for example, if you have a credit card with a $1,000 credit limit and you went and made a $400 purchase, your credit utilization is now at 40%. One of my main problems when I had credit card debt of over $30,000 was that my credit utilization was around 80 or 90%. It's kind of like pouring salt on your food. A little bit of salt can really make your food taste really great, but too much salt can really just ruin your dinner. So basically, it's good for you to use some of your credit, but just not the whole thing. So I had to put myself and the family on a strict budget to be able to pay off this credit card debt. Once I dropped my credit utilization from like 80 or 90% down to about 20%, I literally saw my credit score jump overnight. It went from like 685 to over 722. So as my business was growing and as we were still staying on this nice strict budget to just do what we can to throw all of our resources at paying off these credit cards, I finally got my utilization at about 0, meaning I wasn't using any credit card debt for anything. That was really amazing. And I really saw my credit score jump from about 720 to over 800 really in the span of a couple of weeks. So to figure out your credit utilization, just use free places such as Credit Karma or Credit Sesame. This video is not sponsored or anything by those places. They're really just nice free places you can go to see what your credit score is, but most importantly, see how much credit you're using. The next tip that I have for you, I kind of alluded to already, but you need to stop spending. Now, this one can be a hard one for a lot of people out there because we are so ingrained in just getting what we want when we want it, even if we don't have the money for it. And that's exactly what you need to stop doing. So if you have a ton of credit card debt, just imagine it like a huge mountain. I mean, I was like that, over $30,000 in credit card debt, and I had to stop spending. I had to stop adding to that mountain. That was the number one thing that I had to do. So for me and for a lot of you out there, you might realize that this needs to really come with a fundamental shift in your thinking, especially when it comes to spending money and instant gratification. So one thing that I learned when it came to taking control of my finances, I got from Jaspreet Singh over at The Minority Mindset. I'll be sure to put a link down to his channel below. But one thing that he always preaches is that if you can't afford 5 of them, you can't afford 1 of them. So I started kind of using that mindset when I wanted something, and I thought if I can't afford cash, 5 of those, then I didn't buy it at all. Sure, it's going to lead to a few times where you won't be able to go out to dinner, or you won't be able to get that new video game or new TV or whatever, the new pair of shoes, whatever it is that you're into. You may have to skip that for a little while for the betterment of your credit. The next thing that I did to raise my credit score over 800 is to take advantage of balance transfers. So essentially, a balance transfer is being able to pay off one credit card with another credit card, but at a much lower interest rate. Now, this trick of using balance transfers really helped me out because as one interest rate started to kind of expire on one card, I was able to then move it to another card and then have it at a low interest rate again. This really helped keep my payments low, and it helped me avoid as much interest as possible. Now, there are some pros and cons of doing a balance transfer. So for example, a benefit of using a balance transfer is that you get to avoid the high interest fees. Another good thing about it is that it's really easy to do. Anytime you pay off a credit card or you have a zero balance on a credit card, they want you to use that credit card so that they can make more money on interest on you. So what they're going to do is they're going to send you balance transfer checks. They're going to give you promotional offers just to get you to use that card. So it's actually very easy to do. And the best benefit of it, especially when you are on a tight budget, is the fact that it keeps your payments very, very low because the interest rate is very low. But there are some negatives of doing a balance transfer as well. And one of them is that it requires you to have a lot of open lines of credit. Now, I was in debt over $30,000 in credit card debt, but it was because I had a lot of credit cards that had decently high limits on them. And I tried my best not to use the entire thing. So that little 10% gap that I had, I was able to use a lot of that to just transfer money back and forth over time. Another con of doing balance transfers is the fees. Now, one thing I did do to try to avoid the balance transfer fees is I would call the credit card company and ask them to waive it. It was about 50-50. Sometimes they would, sometimes they wouldn't. So really just try it, see what happens. A lot of times what I found was that the fees to transfer a balance over to the other was going to be a lot cheaper than the interest you would have to pay if you kept the balance on one card. Another con of it is that you can't really pay off credit cards that are owned by the same bank. So one thing that I've realized is that a lot of these small department store credit cards, like your Best Buys or, different places like that, are really owned by much bigger companies like Citibank or Chase. So if you have a card that you have no idea who it belongs to and you try to pay it off, they'll tell you, oh, you can't pay it off with that because that's already a Chase account. But there is a way around that. A lot of these credit card companies, when they want you to do a balance transfer, will actually issue you what are called balance transfer checks. You can write them out for whatever amount you want as long as it's under your credit limit, and you can take that money and really do whatever you want with it. Now, they don't advise you to do this, but this is a good way to take money from one credit card and pay off another at a much lower interest rate, even if it's at the same institution. Now, this wouldn't be a credit card hacks help video if you didn't include paying your bills on time. The one thing that I did while I was carrying all this ridiculous amount of debt was that I never skipped a payment. I would have to sacrifice everything sometimes just to make sure I made the minimum payments on these credit cards. Paying on time also is almost just as big a factor in determining your credit score, just as your credit utilization, if not more. These credit card companies want to know if you are dependable. Another reason why you want to be sure to pay on time is because if you miss a payment longer than 30 days, they are going to stay on your credit for up to 7 years. So sometimes making a sacrifice now and making sure you pay the bill off now is going to help you avoid seeing it on your credit for 7 whole years. There were times where I would get paid for my job and just start making payments on, regular everyday stuff like the mortgage and utilities and food and things like that. And now it was time to pay those minimum payments on those credit cards. That was tough because at the end of it, I would probably have $50 to live on for 2 weeks. That was tough times, but the sacrifice was worth it because when I got the money because of my online business to pay off all of this bad debt, I was able to really see my credit score jump really, really high in a very short period of time. Another trick that I use that you probably shouldn't use, but it was really helpful for me, is that a lot of these credit card companies are not going to report you unless your payment is more than 30 days late. So if you miss it by a couple of weeks, yes, you will get a late fee, but if you don't do it very often, a lot of times you can call them and ask them to waive the fee. For me, they were able to do that 75% of the time. It's always worth calling and asking. And the next tip that you should use to really get your credit score to skyrocket within a matter of weeks is you need to commit to paying them off. There is nothing worse in the world than wasting money on interest, especially credit card interest. You might as well just take your money and just flush it down the toilet. One thing that was helpful for me was that I sat down and literally wrote down every credit card that I had, the balance that each credit card had, and then how much interest I was getting on each one of those credit cards each month. When I started seeing that on some credit cards, I was paying over $200 and $300 a month just in interest, that really was a wake-up call for me that I needed to get this taken care of. I was literally losing thousands of dollars per year. Another great benefit of paying off those credit credit cards was it was a burden lifted off of me. I really can't express to you how great it feels to not have to worry about paying off a credit card, because it's always like nagging in the back of your mind that, oh yeah, I got to make this payment. And then as a result, when you actually pay off these credit cards, you're going to see so many other opportunities open up for you. For example, like this video showing you how your credit score can go above 800 just by doing a few things right. Because of these benefits, I've been able to do so many other additional things with my money rather than flushing it down the toilet. And one of those was recently refinancing my house. I mean, I was able to knock down $200 or $300 a month from my mortgage just because I had an excellent credit score. When you sit down and you pay your bills each month and you realize that you don't have to pay $100 here on this credit card, $200 here on this credit card, $400 here on these credit cards, it makes doing your bills a whole lot easier and a whole lot cheaper. The very first few times that I started paying my bills without having to worry about minimum payments on credit cards, I was amazed with the fact that my monthly bills actually weren't as much as I thought they were once you take out those credit card minimum payments. Now, I've learned a lot of good and bad lessons from paying off over $30,000 worth of debt to now having a zero balance on all my credit cards. And one of the things that I've fundamentally learned is that it's much better to invest your money in things that you want to do rather than just giving it to a credit card company. And of course, some of this comes with age. I'm older and wiser now, so I'm not going to have to worry about running up a credit card bill like I have in the past. But the earlier you learn this stuff, the better off you will be. Start building your credit. Credit is not the devil, or credit is not a bad thing, but you can really take advantage and take control of your life, just like you would with an online business, by simply taking control of your credit score. Too many times young people are not taking their credit seriously and they buy stuff with a credit card with the intention of not paying for it. You can't have that mindset because it's going to come and bite you once you're 30 and 40. So I hope you enjoyed and learned something from the video. If you've made it this far in the video and you haven't already, please be sure to smash that like button, as well as subscribe. We post new videos every Mondays and Thursdays. I'd hate for you to miss any future updates, so be sure to tick the little bell notification icon as well. Be sure to stay tuned for the bloopers, and I will catch you all later. But if the learner you learn, and how much money you have to put down in a deposit for your and one of the craziest things it can affect is whether or not you hit that smash button.